Drawing hair is like a challenge all in itself. And most kids, when they start doing portraits, they work really hard on the faces, and then they just do a bad job on the hair because they don't understand the hair. They think the hair is like a bunch of strands. And there's strands in your hair, but think of the hair as a sculpture, okay? It has form, it has volume. So let's take a look at George Clooney's hair here. His hair is lifting up. So what happens here, the top of his head is lighter, this area is darker, and the area underneath this little wave is darker, because we picture the hair as being like a three-dimensional shape. And most kids don't do that. When they draw hair, they just draw a bunch of lines, and it doesn't look good. So drawing hair really is a skill, okay? I would just say a skill. It takes practice. So I'm gonna be handing out these to you, and you're gonna be drawing these in your sketchbook. Here's a girl's hair, a faceless girl, just hair. And you'll see on hair, some areas of the hair, like here, it's almost solid black. You don't see any strands. Other areas like here, it's almost solid white. You don't see any strands, okay? Then there's other areas we have locks of hair. Like this is like a lock or a group of hair. So picture if you're drawing that, the bottom of that lock will be a little darker and the top will be a little lighter. And then your hair has a lot of crevices in it. By crevices, I mean you've got these cracks in between your hair where it gets much darker. And you all have that, every one of you, okay? You've got these crevices in your hair and you've got these highlights in your hair. And I'll notice how this part of the hair looks kind of shiny. That's because the light's hitting that area and creating a little shine right in this area. Just like this looks like a shine, and then this is solid dark. So when you first do your hair, I draw the hair as though it is just a three-dimensional thing, and I just add values. I don't add lines or texture until later, okay? And we're gonna add some hair to this guy. Now, typically, your hair, you know, if I was to shave a person's head, his hair stubble would probably start about here, okay? And the mistake that little kids make when they draw hair is like they draw a head and they put the hair on top of the head like this, okay? You're not going to look like that unless you got hair like me or maybe Mr. Acker. Your hair doesn't start on top of your head, okay? It starts further down. So what I'm going to do here is this. I'm just going to give this guy, I'm going to give him a part right here, which means a little split. I'm going to make the hair sort of go like this at that part. Okay, so I'm drawing the volume of the hair right now. I'm going to give him a little whipped over here and maybe something like that and maybe a little whip there. Here's his temple. So I'm drawing the shape of the hair first. Now you notice the shape of the hair leaves the head. It doesn't stick to your head unless your hair is really thin and it's wet. Your hair doesn't usually stick to your head. It leaves your head. So if you're really going to measure a face from the chin to the top of the hair, the eyes are actually lower than halfway if you add your hair to that, okay? Now, I guess I'll give this guy long hair. And so I'm going to have the hair coming over here behind his shoulders and maybe in here. And you could have some hair hanging onto his shoulders too. So anyhow, so take a look at my hair really quick. I'm going to do this very fast. And since the light's coming this way, it's going to be a lot darker on this side over there. And it's going to start to get light as it hits this little hill up here. And it's going to be really dark back here underneath the ear because that's like going back in a cave. Your hair is kind of inside that cave area there, okay? And I'll make a little gray there. Now the top of the hair, if the light's coming this way, my blue pencil go, then I'm going to have a highlight kind of in this area right here. You can kind of see my blue pencil. So in that area, I want to leave that lighter. Now, even if your hair is blonde, you're going to have some really dark areas and some really light areas, okay? And the mistake people make is when they do blonde hair, they think the hair's light everywhere. It's not. I look at some of you ladies in here with lighter hair, and you've got some really dark areas in your hair, okay? And if your hair is really dark, you're going to have some really light highlights in your hair, okay? Now, if you're dark hair, Val's got pretty dark hair, so her hair is going to be probably like if you have values from 1 to 10, a lot of her values are going to be from 5 to 10, but she's still going to have some highlights in that hair, okay? And the mistake people make with dark hair is they just start filling it all in dark. Okay, so here's my hair here. And let's say this guy's got sort of light brown hair. So I got some lighter values in here. And maybe it gets a little darker as it goes down here. Behind the ear, it's going to get a little darker. Behind this ear, it's going to get a little darker. And so what I have here is I've got hair that gradually goes from light to dark. So I'm doing this hair, it's kind of like he's wearing a big curved bun on his head here. Okay? So that bun is darker here and lighter here, and it gets medium kind of here. So I'm leaving the highlights in this area. Okay? Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to start to add those cracks and crevices. So take a look at mine. So what I might do is say, okay, there's a crack in his hair right here, or a crevice. Here's another one right there. And here's a crack in the hair here, or a crevice. Then I'm going to have some locks of hair. So let's say here's a lock of hair, and that kind of heads down this way. Underneath that lock, it might be a little darker. So I kind of identify this area as sort of a lock of hair. Maybe he's got a lock of hair here, sort of like that. Okay? Now, his forehead, since his hair is off his forehead, it's going to create a shadow on his forehead. So his forehead's going to get darker here underneath that overhang. Okay? Maybe I'll make it really dark because I really want it to pop out. So I'm going to make this area really dark so you really can see this three-dimensional shadow that's being created on his head there. Okay? Now, since I drew that lock just like he did, then maybe I'll just darken a little bit around that lock there a little bit. And I'm drawing these locks, and that's when I'm going to start to add my texture with strands, but not all your strands will be the same. So that's the mistake people make. They start doing strands, and they start doing this thing where every strand looks like the same. So take a look here. Every strand is going to be different. Oop, what's going on here? So some of your strands are going to be barely visible. Some are going to be deep and dark. Some are going to be really skinny and medium. So you want your strands to vary. You don't want these strands to be all the same. Okay? So some of my strands vary. But what I do is once again, I lay down the hair first, add the values, and then I put the texture over the top. But look at how this part of the hair here looks a little bit shinier now because I left that whiter. There's a bit of a shine over here. Now if I add a little bit dark here, almost looks like there's a little line of shine right there. Right in here. I left that lighter. And I'm going to get darker here. So once again, there's some areas of my hair where it's like solid. I can hardly see any texture like that. And then there's some other areas where it's solid white, where I can't hardly see any texture. So that's really the basics of hair. You're drawing locks, you're drawing crevices, you have a variety of lines, but you're laying your values down first. Does that make sense? Okay? So, this is what you guys are going to do. I'm going to pause this for a minute. I'm going to be giving you a packet. And the packet has some hairstyles in it. You're going to draw all three of these hairstyles. Here's one. You're just going to draw it like that. You don't need a face, okay, or a head. Here's another one. Okay? This is a different artist, so it looks a little different. This person has a few more strands in here. But I'd like you to do this head similar to the way this one is, with some areas that are solid dark, some areas that are solid white, and then a lot of locks and texture in there. Okay? So two different hairstyles, and I'll show you the third one. So three hairstyles you're going to do in your sketchbook. Okay? I want you to do them well. Don't just throw them down. I want you to really take your time and do them well. Because I really think if you can do these three, you'll be able to do pretty much any kind of hairstyle that you're going to be doing on your portraits you're doing. Okay? So I'm going to say, let's say today's Tuesday. Thursday, one of these are due. Next week, Monday, the next one's due. And the next week, the next day, the next three classes, each one of these is going to be due. Do you understand? So if you get all three done before next class, boom, you're way ahead of schedule. Okay? So I want you to get those done. I'm going to give each person a packet. Then I have some portraits here. I got Scarlett Johansson. Pretty sure that's her. And what was the other guy I mentioned before? George Clooney, got a male, got a female, and a third female. I'm not sure who this is, but you're going to be doing 2 of these 3 portraits in your sketchbook with an ebony pencil or a regular pencil. Got that? Now, next thing.